Hey folks, it's Spitz with Pixels and Pills from Digital Pharma East, Day 3, with an emphasis on mobile here in Philly, 2012. It's my pleasure to have Bob Allen, Director of Digital Marketing with AstraZeneca, and he gave a terrific keynote, covered lots of boundaries there between responsive design, the role of mobile, point-of-care resources with the sales force and physicians. What are some of your thoughts with regard to the effectiveness of mobile in the pharma space right now?
Well, I think it's a big opportunity for the pharma space. As you know, we tend to lag a little behind some of the other industries, but it was really refreshing to hear a lot of the great discussion today that was happening. Last year, when I had an opportunity to chair the event, people were really just beginning to think about how to mobilize content. I think this year it was really an emphasis on we know the technology, what are the options, and what is the best way to move forward to provide content to patients and to physicians so they can actually have a better experience with the brand. So again, I think the conversations have really evolved from where we were last year, and we're much more salient about the use of technology and the willingness to actually move into this kind of new channel of marketing for it.
Absolutely, and especially on the physician side of the house, the iPad over the last couple of years has really revolutionized the space in terms of tablet adoption. The whole mobile health movement seems to be just contingent and drawing out of embracing the iPad, embracing the tablet as a viable resource. When it comes to the sales force, that's obviously created tremendous opportunity as well. Can you share some of your thinking with regard to HCP engagement at the point of care?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously a lot of discussion today was enabling the sales force with the iPad. And again, 2-3 years ago, we were still with the tablet PCs, and now the iPad brings on such new challenges. We know that physicians are early adopters, so they're looking for pharma sales reps who they're engaging with to actually have content on an iPad. That's almost an expectation now. And it's almost like they're taking it to another level, really looking for engaging content on the iPad. So one of the things that we talked about today was it's just not enough to have an iPad. You have to have the content to put into that device that is really appropriate. So engaging immersive content should be appropriate for that physician so that they're interested as well. If we're just repurposing the old paper-based CVA and kind of putting it on this glossy little device, then that's really not going to cut it. It's really not going to be sufficient for the physician, and it's definitely not going to resonate with the sales force as well. I think the sales force is also hungry for a tool that they can use to get more time with the physician, and I think we're just really beginning to scratch the surface of what the iPad can do.
Yeah, a stat was cited, I believe, that physicians are 4 times more likely to be responsive to messaging if it's in the form of a touchscreen mobile device like the iPad. And on the consumer side of the house, that level of excitement and engagement with regard to touchscreens, mobility, is being reflected on the side of patients and caregivers as well. Can you share some thoughts on the flip side of the equation with regard to communicating with patients, their families, sharing disease state education and the like?
Sure. I mean, just even broader than just the iPad itself, just being able to mobilize content for patients is very important. We talk about immediacy as something that the mobile technology brings. So anytime we can provide a relevant piece of information about our drugs, a disease state, whether they're in the physician's office, they're in the emergency ward, or they're in the pharmacy looking to redeem a script, I think that's an opportunity for us. So again, there's so much we can do with patients, with caregivers, to really make sure that our brands are in the right place at the right time for them to use. And again, that's the other thing too. Providing great utility is something that we have to think about. It's not just enough to have the content. I think the content is like table stakes. If they're searching for a disease state, we want to make sure that we're there as a brand. But at the end of the day, they're looking to do something with that mobile device, and we want to make sure that we're providing them the appropriate utility to do that.
Yeah, and speaking of utility, there's a lot being said about responsive design. It used to be mobile optimization, where you start out thinking about a website and adapting it, optimizing it for mobile. And now the charm of responsive design is that we're starting to build content. We're looking at the user experience from the vantage point of channel neutrality. It's not just going to be a website, it's not a mobile app, but it's a different way of thinking about content. From the pharma side of the house, that presents new challenges with regard to sharing fair balance information and a lot of the requisite information that we as pharmaceutical communicators are obligated and responsible to perform. How does that factor in terms of being responsible on the one hand, obviously being compliant, but also fitting into this new model of creating things with mobile responsive design in mind?
So responsive design is a very interesting topic. And again, it was a hot topic here today with at least 2 or 3 of the presenters talking about responsive design. So 2 things, actually. I think, you know, responsive design is a tool. It is a way to mobilize the websites that we definitely have to look at. It's one option. So, you know, there is still a need for a mobile, you know, specific presence, the m.com presence. But we need to, as marketers, determine what is the right way to go about mobilizing content. Are we building a mobile-specific website, or are we mobilely optimizing the site based on responsive design tools and techniques? So I think that's one. We have options that we have to determine. The second thing, and you hit the nail on the head, medical, legal, and regulatory. How do we get those folks to understand that, you know, our screens are what you've approved is actually going to change depending on the size and the resolution of the screen. Our ISI may be in a little bit of a different place than where it was before when you approved it. So I think one of the things that we have to do as an industry, and I know we do within AstraZeneca, is definitely make sure that we're providing a good understanding of what this technology can do to our medical, legal, and regulatory folks. And then I think for us, for me specifically, it's like, what is the best, most efficient way that they can approve that content in an expeditious way so that we can take advantage of the technology? Because what ends up happening, and I'm sure a lot of people could attest, that when things go through MLR, you know, what the original idea was in the front end kind of isn't the same on the back end. And I think what we want to try to do with mobilizing content is making sure we're keeping the integrity of that experience and mitigating risk. So there's a lot of work that I think that has to be done with MLR as it relates to responsive design. But I think it's definitely a challenge that we as the pharma industry need to push forward so we can actually be relevant to our customers.
Thanks so much. Bob Allen with AstraZeneca talking about the challenges, but more importantly, the tremendous opportunities within the mobile space for pharma and healthcare communication overall. Thanks so much for joining us.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Spitz with Pixels signing out from Digital Pharma East in Philly 2012. Thanks so much. Thanks, Bob.